Welcome one, welcome all to ESPN Esports. Thank you very much for joining us on Twitch, the ESPN app, on Twitter, and also on YouTube. A very special interview to start things off here on Search and Destroy a little bit later on. We'll be talking all about the moves of free agency, but a giant one as it pertains to the Atlanta FaZe. The gentleman joining me right now is the newest member of Atlanta, joining his old Tiny Terror buddies from E United. They won a world championship, if you recall that last season. Of course you do. And now they are reunited under the Atlanta FaZe banner. I'm talking about Arcitys, former Chicago Huntsman player, now joining the Atlanta FaZe. How does that sound? Have you gotten used to the...
No, not at all. It sounds so weird. I streamed this morning. I just heard, welcome FaZe. I was like, what? It's just still so new to me. It's crazy.
It's especially crazy because that's the team you faced last in the postseason, right? So it's almost as if like there's lingering feelings there, but then now you're joining that team.
Yeah, only team I lost to at champs. It's okay. They call me the Kevin Durant of COD.
That's right. My next chapter. There should be like a Players Tribune, Arcitys, my next chapter, going to the Atlanta FaZe.
Yes.
I like it. So, well, to talk to me about why you chose the FaZe. Like, I mean, obviously we'll get into everything leading up to it, but why Atlanta?
I mean, so like, obviously, like what I said was just like true. Like, I want to be a main. The 5v5 to 44, it was like, the more I thought about it late night, like banging not late, like super late at night, just sitting there, like if I don't make this move for myself, I'm gonna hate myself like over and over. If I'm like the one getting like I can't shoot straight, I can't do something with a sub. I'm like I have to just make the decision fast, or I'm gonna either one regret it, or two I'm gonna be on a team I don't want to be on, running a main. And so just choosing this team was like it was a shot in the dark. Like I was like, yo, like what does this sound like? And it's like I talked to Tyler, Chris, like I was just talking to all of them, and I was like what are the chances happens? And when we got together, and it turned out like it happened somehow. So I'm excited to be playing with those guys, and I'm actually super excited to be working with the coaching staff too.
How much of a formidable opponent were they? Like when you faced them throughout this. We didn't necessarily get the Chicago-Atlanta matchup right away. Like we had to wait for it, right? It kind of percolated until we finally did. But then we saw it in the postseason, of course. But like, what did you make of that team throughout the season and how impressive they were?
Oh, they were super impressive. When we always like me, Tyler, and MC always talking late night, and Chris does his thing now. But like we were talking about it, like I did not know they only had 2 wins over the whole MW year. I was kind of mind blown about that. I was like, yeah, like that can be true. Like you won more than us, and they're like, no, we have like 7 second place finishes. I was like, that's crazy. Like that's actually a just absurd amount. So like, I don't know.
Well, now you get to talk about it a lot more because you're on the team. Let's go in order, actually, because there's so much to unpack, right? Like so much news came out, and now we're hearing about when players heard about certain news. I'd like to ask you, obviously the big news here and the reason why there's so much free agency frenzy happening right now is because of the shift from 5v5 to 4v4. When did you first hear about this news?
I want to say it accidentally got leaked in like 3 weeks before champs, and it was just it was like something like a little mistake happened in a call, and like everyone caught on. They're like everyone was DMing each other and stuff, and I was like, okay, like this is not good for some of the teams that like don't have strong mental attitudes, or like, so it's like it was kind of like a stressful situation before champs, but like I know my team was fine because it's just, or like no one cares. Like it's all about winning. Like like people don't look at the bigger picture. Like even if you win and you're that guy that gets dropped, you're going to be the face of the next team. You're going to get whoever you want. I mean, look at Clay right now. He's probably sitting in a chair, just leaning back, just posted up with a phone in his hand, looking at every email he has.
Just fielding, just like swipe. It's almost like a team dating app where he's swiping left or right on who he wants to talk to.
He's like, so what are you doing today? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah. So okay, see, that's interesting because like some teams I've heard that the owners just directly had conversations with their players and just told them straight up. Like Dallas did that, where they all knew, and you heard it by accident. So like, what were those conversations like with the players? Like, how were you able to say, you know what, we got to put this aside because that's such a giant news. Like, even though you're on the route to trying to win a world championship, one of you at least is gonna have a different jersey next year or lose their job on that team.
I mean, uh, I don't know. I don't really want to talk about it because like
Okay.
it's a sensitive subject. It's like all I could say is there's four people. There's one person that got picked up halfway through the year, obviously Preston. And it was kind of like a bad situation for him. So it's like us four were like, oh, that core forward throughout the whole year, and he was just like an added person, like, and he just like he was gonna get the short end of the stick no matter what it seemed like, and it was just a terrible situation.
As much as you're willing to share, what do you think is next for your brother?
I think besides that one match versus FaZe where we did take him to Game 5, I think he played incredible this year and got a lot of flack for nothing. It seemed like he played really good for the role he ran. Like he joined a team of 4 superstars and made it work. Like he joined and made us get better in hardpoint, made us get better in S&D domination. I still don't even know how to play dom. I don't think anyone does, but it's like Preston deserves a spot over a lot of people, and it's not. That's not me saying it because I'm his brother, but I do think he is one of the better players, and I think he's ran a role, and he's obviously won in it, and he just got he tried taking advantage of a spot like that he got put in, and I respect him for it.
What was that conversation like when, I mean, obviously we don't know what Preston's next move is, but what was the conversation like with your bro when you signed on the dotted line and you were leaving Chicago and joining Atlanta?
Um, I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like they told both of us at the same time. Like I told them I was like I want to be a main, and they told him like a day later like you're free to look at whatever you want or whoever you want, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Like me and him like we had this conversation last year. It's like this is our career. This isn't a family business. So it's like we got to make career choices that are like choices that will better our career. And like we both know that we both love each other. It's that's how life works. So it wasn't that big of a deal for us this time.
Do you think he'll be a starter next year?
Oh, of course.
Mhm.
But I mean, if he starts, he's getting these hands this time.
Okay, I do want to ask about that because like we did a bunch of roundtables, and then we'll move on from this subject. But
Yeah.
we did Emily Rand and I, my esteemed colleague, we did a bunch of roundtables on like our favorite moments about the regular season. And for me, I always go back to that matchup, Florida versus Chicago, brother versus brother, right? Like for me, like I was there, I interviewed both of you after the fact. It was like a roller coaster of emotions. It was like probably one of the most hype and like sensational moments of the season to me, right? There's so much happening in that moment and just like the wave of emotions for both of you, right? Like I asked you immediately afterwards, but now that you've had time to think about it and now that we're like months removed from that, how do you look back on that match?
Um, I learned from it. I learned that 5 of the best players in the game can't always win off skill. I think that's how my whole team looked at it. That was the downfall of us with Pierce, and uh, I don't know. It's just I've always been a player that wants to like watch VOD and like get better as a team outside of COD, and I just felt like with that 5, we didn't start watching VODs until like when we got pressed, and then again like that's
Why?
I think watching VODs was huge. What'd you
What
say?
was the reasoning? What was the reasoning for that? Just that was
Watching
not part of
VODs?
it. Yeah,
Like not watching VODs before?
yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I we didn't on United. We didn't watch VODs until like the end of the year with Bryce. Bryce like made us get on an hour early before every day watch VODs, and I think I don't know. That's not like that was like a team decision. So I don't know. We just never like said, yo, let's watch VODs today or let's watch VODs this day. We tried we tried going over stuff in game, but like it was so hard sometimes. But we got it to work.
Are you somebody that appreciates watching VOD? Is that
Oh,
something
of
that you
course.
greatly benefit from? Okay.
Oh, of course.
So
I mean,
did you find it difficult then?
um, no, I, nah, not really. I think you can't make. It's hard to make 5 people or like on the same page, especially in that Call of Duty, because there was like at the start of the year, it's always hard to find stuff to watch VODs unless it's your own scrims, and we're streaming our scrims anyway, so it's like we could have just went back and rebroadcast and watched it together, and it's just like I don't know. I felt like it wasn't like no, it wasn't someone in particular. It's just all of us just being lazy.
What about just particularly playing against your bro and the fact that like there was no rematch, right? That was the only time. And then all of a sudden he joins the team. So like how much did you guys even talk about that?
We still talk
days,
about
weeks,
it.
month. You still talk about it. Does he still bring it up every now and then?
Yeah, I tell him I have more chips than him. He says I'm 1-0 against you. I'm like, come on. I'm like, dude, it's fine. I still have more chips than you. He says you've went to land more than me. I was like, all right, come on, come on, man. It's like, it's just, I do like. That was like one of the only moments where I was like, okay, we have to beat this. We have to beat them, and I was super confident going into it. And it's just, again, it's just 5 giants sometimes can't win everything.
I love that he just brings it up. I love that he just needles you with it. Like that's such a brother thing to do.
Oh, we're very competitive too.
Is there a small part of you that like, let's assume Preston, there's an announcement coming, Preston makes another main roster. Is there a part of you that's very happy that you get to face him again? Like to get that win back?
My lying answer would be no. I don't care who I play, but my truthful answer is yes. Like, yeah, I do want to play him. I do want to beat him. And I do want to have that interview after and shove it in his face. Just because how competitive we are.
Yeah. I mean, that the whole moment after the matchup, I don't want to bring up an old wound, but it's just like, it's such
not
a
a wound anymore. It's
a
a learning lesson.
It's such a like, to me, it's like, just like the interaction between you two. Like, it's almost as if like Preston was like, between like, oh man, I don't want to like rag on my brother, but I do want to rag on my brother. I'm going to go and hug him, but then I'm going to tell him that I don't need you. Like there were so many like different emotions happening on stage as soon as he won. Like it was such a crazy moment. And then you're slouched on your chair, but then afterwards you're both standing there with courage and like you're both drained. And then we did an interview and you guys are like trying to verbalize your thoughts, but you're still like having gone through this emotional roller coaster and you're both drained of energy. Like it's just crazy.
I think like the first 10 seconds after like the match, it was just our competitive side. Then like him walking over, he realized he's like, oh shit. So it's like, it's whatever. Like it was a learning lesson for me. It was probably something he's going to hold over me no matter what, because how stacked my roster was versus how stacked his roster was. So it's like, I'll give him that. I learned from it, but I'll always come back and give him 180% no matter what, if I ever play him.
Okay, so let's go through the postseason. Chicago bows out in third, loses to Atlanta. You know the 4v4 news at this point, right? Yeah. So how soon after that match did you start having conversations or did you start talking to the team?
It wasn't soon at all. I think it was like a week after, I believe. I texted Troy. I said, yo, like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, can we talk? And he tried to tell him, like, walking me through. He's like, bro, like, no one should be mad if you do want to run a main. And I was just like, dude, like, I don't know what I want to do. And he's like, just take your time and like try to help, like, do what you want to do. Do what you want to do for your career. And I obviously, like, I talked to Hector and he's like, that's fine. Like, it's no bad blood. We're here now.
Did they like what was the order of events? Like, was it did they offer anything to you before you made that decision to run a main? Like that was important to you? Like how did that sequence of events happen?
It just, I mean, it was just a straight up like, it was just like, oh, we're not gonna like make you be on this roster if you don't want to be on this roster. It was just like that, just straight up. I mean, I respect the hell out of those guys, Hector, the whole Huntsman team. I give them respect. Like I appreciate what they did for me and how this year turned out. I think I would have lost my mind. Like that tweet was real. Like I would have lost my mind if I was playing with any other 4 people probably.
Is that because of what would you say that was most attributed to?
Uh, I mean, obviously the coronavirus that took a toll on a lot of people, as you could tell during the whole season. The game wasn't the best, which obviously, like, as a competitive player, like, I'm always gonna keep grinding the game. I'm always gonna trying to get better, but like, it does take a toll. If you're playing a game and you just can't figure it out over and over and over, and you're doing everything you can, and it's just like this felt like it was the most day-to-day game I've ever played in my life. I like look at the way we played FaZe the first time. We 3-0'd them, and that's because we were hot and they were probably like not on it. The next time we play them game 5, the next time we play them 3-1. Like it's literally that game just felt who was hot that day and who wasn't. Like it was just it wasn't a fun time.
Where would you say, when you look back on it now, where would you say Modern Warfare ranks across all COD titles?
No answer.
Okay, fair enough. We can leave it at that. What about season 1 of CDL? Game aside, just like and completely understanding that there's like nobody could control what was going to happen with the pandemic and moving online. Like I certainly give the league a pass on many things because that is a huge undertaking to try and push the league online. But when you look back on it, this was a landmark year for COD competitive, right? With the start of the CDL. So how do you look back on season 1?
I mean, I think it was a good time. I think what they did was great. I think the only few things I'll change was the way champs was set up. We had a week to scrim pickup teams that we had to pay to play MW. Just because no one was playing, there's 4 teams left. Us, FaZe, Dallas, and London. Like, obviously we're not gonna keep scrimming a team over and over. Like, it wouldn't help anybody. They would catch our strats, we would catch onto their strats. So we're sitting there trying to find a pickup team to play S&D in, and they don't like. I'm not gonna say it, like, obviously they're getting paid, but they're not gonna try 100% like us 4 teams are, and that was just not a fun week because one day we just didn't even scrim because we couldn't, and just that. And I'm really glad that they changed the home stands into events instead of just like 2 matches and you're out. Like I remember that's how it was set up for the first 2 weeks it got announced. So I'm glad that, but I'd rather have like events, a pool play than a bracket and losers winners. But I mean you can't get everything you want, so I'm happy with how the first year turned out.
If you had your say, how would season 2 go down?
I
I'm
mean,
asking your opinion.
Obviously, normal events, pool play back, champs back to normal. Everything just how it was a year ago or 2 years ago. Like, just that's when it was the most competitive. Just a winners, a losers, and like the stories that could come out of losers is crazy. The stories coming out like open bracket teams coming out of pool. Like, imagine like a day before, like Thursday, an open brackets held, like the top 4 teams come out, they get put in a pool play instantly, and it'll just be that'd be like a cool event back like to go to. Like it's just, but I mean that's a perfect world where there's not even land right now. So
Yeah.
I mean if it was online that'd be sick too.
I don't know how far these conversations got. Apparently they were very preliminary, but one of the things we kept hearing going into champs was the idea of a COD bubble. And I'm wondering, let's just imagine that the pandemic is still here and we have to socially distance and LAN events aren't necessarily safe, but we can still have, events like the League of Legends World Championship, which is in a bubble, and the NHL and NBA, etc. If there were to be a COD bubble, what would your opinion on that be?
It'd be chaos. It'd be a lot of arguing, a lot of better. Just the conversation we had behind closed doors was crazy. Just how many arguments there were about this and this and this, and just it's just the bubble would have been insane. There's nothing much else to say about it because it's not a real thing, but it'd been insane.
And just envisioning the bubble, like the three of us with Emily, we were talking about this before we went on the air about how it would be like the greatest content creation environment in the history
every
of esports.
org would have a vlog, just a camera just pointed at their players, just watching them eat, just arguing with another team or something. It would have been hilarious.
Just imagine every team, like Hex in the bubble. Imagine the FaZe clan people in the bubble. Like it would be insane.
Just like you got
with
shit,
the COD
you got
personalities,
shit on you today.
right? With the
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it would be crazy. I kind of almost hope that becomes a real possibility.
Yeah.
Would you want to play in that environment, like to compete in that environment, if that were the thing?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't pass a chance to do that. So yeah, I'd definitely do that.
What do you make of another big piece of news was that COD is going to PC with controller options. What did you make of that news?
I don't know. I'm excited to play. That just went past my mind. Like I ordered a new PC obviously because I sent it to Tyler's place just to have a PC down there. But I mean, I think just the news of me joining Atlanta or FaZe was just bigger than that. I felt like sorry, like avoid the question. It's like joining this team was like I don't care what I'm playing on as long as I'm playing with these three and the coaching staff. Obviously, it was just like I'm gonna get shit done no matter what console it is or PC or whatever. I just want to be the best team.
Okay, talk to me about your teammates then. You reunite with the Tiny Terrors. Celium is involved. Like, just tell me about this team. Like, it sounds like an amazing roster, but like, tell me about how excited you are and you know how this team will compete in 4v4.
I think this is the first team I've been on where I know what my role is gonna be. I think with Clay and Matt, or they're both obviously main ARs too, and this is the first year I'm going into the season knowing what role I'm going to do and how I'm going to bring value to this team, is being that guy, that voice that they could just listen to in game and they don't have to stress about other people doing wrong things or telling other team or other players that they're doing something wrong while I can. And I'm like, that's what I'm so excited for, is just like having those three people that are like, I think they're all three better than me by far, just listening to me. I don't know why they would, but they already told me like they would. So, I mean,
you are the veteran of the team, right? Yeah,
somehow,
you are the veteran of the team. Yeah.
I'm literally 22 years old, the oldest one on the team.
So will you be the IGL then?
I assume so. I hope so.
Is that what you want to be? Like, is that part of the?
Yeah, it's something I really want to be. I think it would be a lot easier to do in 4v4 instead of a 5v5 format. And obviously Tyler and Chris, they know how I work, and they know I won't like slack in scrims. Like I like to take everything I do super serious, because I hate having days where I feel like, wow, like I feel like I just did nothing. Like I'm sitting at home, like I feel like I could have done something more productive than sit here and just fuck around during and not get better. So they know how I play MC. I've been talking to him like every day. He's a freak of nature, in and out of game. I think anybody on FaZe could back me up on that one. He's a quiet one, but when you get to know him, he's crazy.
There's also a part of this that now Atlanta has their starting four, right? Like, free agency is crazy already. Look at everything that has happened around the league. And Atlanta, however, are one of the teams that is set. You know who the starting four are. Like, is there like a relief to that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, rather just doing, again, this comes to me like being just the guy just being who I am. I don't like any last minute things. Like, if I want to do something, I want it done now instead of later, just because I can just calm down, relax for the next couple weeks, couple months, and just do me. Like, I don't have to sit here and like text people telling them like, yeah, I don't know if I have this set up yet, or like I don't know what I'm doing yet. And right now it just feels great. Like these just being set. Like I probably everyone could say that in the COD scene. Just roster mania sucks unless you're into drama. Then you're weird.
I don't know. COD, there's never any drama in Call of Duty competitive.
No,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I
Never.
mean, there's never
Ever.
drama because there's a there's a bug somewhere on Intel Call of Duty's releasing everything.
Yeah,
They know
exactly.
they knew stuff about me before I did. So
Was
I
there?
got I saw I was joining FaZe before I even said anything. Before I talked to anyone after champs, I couldn't believe it.
They broke the news like so early that you didn't even know.
They broke it to me. I was like, okay, let's see what we're doing here.
That's crazy. Are you someone that you would rather like announce it yourself? Like you have like ideas on how to announce? Like I know that like I was listening to a podcast with Hex actually was talking about this, how like he wants to control the narrative in a way, or he wants to create the content to make the announcements.
I
Are you that,
mean,
or
I
do you,
mean,
you don't
I
care?
think I think I think I would like that, but just like with how everything goes now in the COD scene, everything's just released. Everything's nothing's even like cool. Like announcements aren't even that cool anymore. Like the Huntsman one, that one was sick just because the like Josefo, like he's the graphic designer. He did like he made it look so good. But it's like I feel like it would have had so much more engagements, likes, retweets if no one knew that was going on. So like to me, just these announcements are just like yeah, everyone knew already. Like why does it matter? It just made it official. It's like talking to a girl and just not saying we're official. That's pretty much what it feels like.
What about some of the other moves? Like what moves have interested you? What teams? I know there aren't that many completed teams yet, but like, are there any teams or certain players on certain teams out there that interest you, or like, oh wow, they're going to be a threat this year?
I mean that Minnesota team. I like people are saying it just looks weird on paper, but like when it comes down to it, Mike or Major, he ran a flex before in past CODs. Priest does it all. I like that guy's crazy, and Lamar Attach has been a top Call of Duty player for a minute now, and Lamar is probably a real what I've heard from him is a really good IGL in game, and knows like when like even out of game, like he knows like yo, you have to show up on time like now, and I just think it's a good if they could get their like not even get their shit together, like even like come together and just build that chemistry, and they'll be a top team for sure.
So now we got a couple minutes left here.
Yep.
Now, obviously, we look forward to Black Ops Cold War. I was surprised to hear that you have not touched the game yet. I find this very interesting. One of the great players out there in the CDL, you have not played a single second of Black Ops Cold War thus far, as we talk.
I mean, when the streams turned on, I was currently not in the CDL, so if that makes
Fair
sense.
enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. So how does that work now? Like, do you know when you'll be able to play the game? When
I mean,
do
the
you
alpha
start
just
streaming?
got released.
You're gonna be part of the you're gonna be grinding the alpha this weekend.
Yeah, of course.
Of
I
course.
think we talked about it. I think we're all playing together, except MC again. He freaking nature. I don't know what he's doing. He likes playing by himself.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he said. He said, I like to know stuff on my own. I'm like, that's fine. I'll let you do you. So I think me and Chris hit me up to play. I'm pretty sure Tyler's gonna get on and play with us. And hopefully we'll just grind and get better
Oh,
during the alpha.
you're streaming on the FaZe channel this weekend, aren't you?
Yes, Friday.
Yeah, right on. Well, cool. I guess people can look forward to seeing some of that content, and I'm sure we're gonna talk to you down the line, definitely before season 2 begins. It's gonna be an interesting one. It'll definitely be bizarre at first to see you in an Atlanta FaZe uniform, but I'm sure we'll get used to it over time.
Yep.
Arcitys, you're the man. Thank you very much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Right on. For the rest of you watching, we're going to take a very quick break, and then we're going to come back with Search and Destroy and break down all things free agency.
All right, cool. Thank you.
So there you see some statistics on Arcitys, and we thank him very much for joining us here. We're going to actually try and make a smooth transition over to Search and Destroy, and we appreciate you all joining us. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about. Interesting notes there from Arcitys and how this is the first time that he really feels like he has a defined role, likely going to be the in-game leader and the main AR on the Atlanta FaZe. And he had a really good season with the Chicago Huntsmen, and he was one of their tentpole players on a team of superstars. Of course, he's going to be breaking from his brother again, not playing with Preston, Be interesting to see where Prestini lands. And we have a lot to talk about because, yeah, free agency. I think frenzy is an understatement, really. I mean, just the idea of what has happened so far, what is going to happen. We have teams that have completely blown up their rosters, but the Atlanta FaZe have kept 3 of their 4 players. They let go, of course, Priesta and Major Maniac, who have moved on, and now it is Arcitys in the Atlanta FaZe. So let's begin Search and Destroy. Emily and EasyMac, Austin joining us now. That was an interesting interview with Arcitys. What were your big takeaways? Anything surprising there? EasyMac, as you were listening in the sidelines?
Nothing too surprising. Just happy he's on the team, and we get to look forward to Cold War, and it's going to be a nice quick turnaround. So just excited to jump into another season and have him on the squad, man in the back line for us.
Emily, what about for you?
So like obsessed with the idea of the COD bubble and like who would break it first, and it's always hilarious to see like this again like wasn't new news to me, but it just reminded me like the when he was like, oh yeah, there were just so many arguments. It reminded me of when we were talking to Krim, and I was like, hey, why do you think we haven't had, obviously this is something COD players want, why do you think we haven't had a union yet? And he was just like, because we're all idiots, we can't get along with each other. Just like, wow, this is a trending theme between from event to event. But no, I mean, he sounds excited to be on FaZe. I think honestly, like the jokes about the bubble aside, the main takeaway is that he really wanted to be a main AR, right? And it's really not difficult to be a main AR, but there's a ton of competition, and it's something that I think he is. I think he'll be a lot more comfortable with going forward. So it's something that he's always wanted to be anyway. So that was my main takeaway, because he kept bringing it up, like, yeah, like this is the reason why I left. I wanted to be a main AR. Like I just wanted to be a main AR. I just wanted to be a main AR. So that's actually the serious takeaway. The joke takeaway is the bubble, though.
Also,
Awesome.
he also said this is going to be the first team he's ever been on that he's comfortable with his role and he knows exactly what it's going to be. So that's actually like really important too, because I think this year he'll actually come out with like right off the gate, like really confident in his game. I think that's really important to the team. We're going to have a nice cohesive unit that already knows their roles, so it's not going to be like a lot of experimenting. We're just going to be able to gel really quickly.
What was your reaction when you heard that he was coming to Atlanta?
It's like really bittersweet, because like obviously with going the 4v4, you got to drop a teammate, and that sucks. And then we made the change for 2, and then we brought in Alec. So it's like really awesome to have Alec on your team. That's like one of the players like in the CL, like the most valuable player you could get. But it also sucks seeing 2 of like great guys on the team leave, and it's kind of disappointing to see that. It sucks, but we made the best out of a bad situation kind of in the offseason this year, and I'm just happy we landed with such a great guy to be our 4th player. So it's really exciting. It like adds a lot of like excitement and like motivation going into this next year, as if we even needed more.
Yeah, no kidding. Emily, I know that one thing I asked Arcitys was about his brother, and of course, being his brother, he's going to say, of course, he'll end up as a starter somewhere. Objectively, though, your opinion, does Prestini land somewhere?
What is it? The rumor is that I'm not sure. Like, are we allowed to talk about like roster rumors? Because I don't know how true these things are. I mean, sometimes I do, but this is one specifically that I actually do not know. The truth of it is that he's going to be going back to Florida, which I think is kind of interesting to hear and weird. But as far as I know, I think let me triple check on my COD rumors. But
I saw one where
I think
he was on Seattle too.
yeah, like, oh, that's another one, because obviously they're going to be around. There's another rumor that he's going to the Gorillas, actually. So that's 3. Obviously, they all can't be true. But yeah, I think that even when he was on United, Preston was someone who was pretty. I hate the term underrated, because it's just really frustrating and overused. But I definitely do not think that he was appreciated by the community for what he does. I do think, however, that he does have a very specific play style, and it's a very fast paced SMG, which I've heard, and this is all because I obviously have not played yet. I've heard that Cold War is still going to continue to be pretty SMG heavy. So, I mean, the thing for Preston is that he just needs to find a team where that kind of super hard entry, like aggressive style really suits the rest of the team as well. And hopefully people's estimation of him will rise, because I feel like a lot of the times when they're looking at his play, they're like, oh, his KD isn't that great. Well, that's probably because his job is to entry and trade sometimes. Like, stuff like that. Hopefully people I think I've seen a slow transition this year, I think, in terms of people understanding like what his role is on a team and why he might look better on certain teams as opposed to others. And I've seen more and more people appreciating him over the course of this year, I think. But he still gets a lot of flack from the community that I agree with Alec. I don't think he deserves it. So I really want him to find a team that really benefits from that fast-paced style.
It is a tough role to play. They were mentioning in chat. It is a very tough role to play because oftentimes you're going to die first, and
yeah.
Optically, if you die first a lot, people are going to think that you're not good at the game, but you're playing a role, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you're doing.
If you are entry, that's literally your job.
I think he'll get a lot of like job offers. I think there's not a lot of guys like him that can play so fast.
Mm-hmm.
I just think a lot of the entry players. There's a lot of like star entry players, but then there's a lot of guys up and coming. And I think Prestini could, he's a really good player. I think whatever team he lands on, I think if he has a nice sub duo, he's going to do amazing. I think he needs someone that will keep pace with him, because I when people talk about pacing issues, a lot of people think like that's straight at their head. They think too slow, but like sometimes a player can be too fast and get too ahead of the pack. And if they're up so fast in front of like their entire team, they can't get traded, or like their kills become less meaningful because the entire team isn't there to capitalize. So I think like as long as he has a nice sub duo, like he's gonna be like he's gonna have another phenomenal year and be on top of his game. So he'll definitely get a starting spot with one of these teams.
So let's take a look at all the recent signings. So this is going to be a giant free agency update. We're going to go through a lot of the recent signings, who's a free agent, what teams are looking at whom, etc. throughout this program. I feel very rude that I didn't mention this first, EasyMac. I think we should ask about you. Are you staying on the FaZe? Have you been fielding offers from teams? Like, what's going on with EasyMac and being an analyst in the league? Give us the goods, man.
I mean, nothing too exciting. I signed a 2-year deal last year, so I'm I got to hang out this off season and just not really worry about anything. So yeah, I'm locked in.
Good position to be in.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your former teammates then. Major Maniac and Presta are leaving the Atlanta FaZe. They've left the Atlanta FaZe. They're joining the Minnesota Rocker. Emily was actually was listening in and participated in the Minnesota Rocker press conference this afternoon. That VOD will be available on our YouTube channel /ESPN Esports. What did you take away from it, Emily?
I mean, these are, again, like I think people's estimation of this team, the immediate reaction was like, holy crap, this is going to be the slowest team ever, and they're going to be really good at S&D. So I wanted to ask them just about like the community perception of what their play style is going to be. And they all just kind of laughed, and they were like, it's whatever. Like, I think overall, they think they're being underestimated in terms of how flexible they can be. And especially with entry SMGs, which you'll hear their answer in that press conference. But that was the main takeaway. They're like, I think we're going to be better on respawn than people are assuming. I don't think we're going to be as slow as people are assuming. And then additionally, the other piece to that, which they did not say, and again, is just really, really base level stuff that I've heard from people who have played Cold War, is that it's still going to be, again, like a little bit slower of a paced SMG heavy game. So take that as you will. I haven't played it myself yet either. I know the alpha comes out this weekend, which is like super hype. But yeah, I think they just kind of laughed it off. And I mean, these are all like veteran players who are pretty chill. And the main takeaway from the entire press conference is that they're just really, they're all like really looking forward to Minnesota's style, the kind of like infrastructure that they brought from the first year in terms of like you heard Arcitys talking about like, oh, we didn't watch VODs until like this point in the season, which isn't surprising. Like I'm not ragging on the Huntsmen for that either. But the expectation for this team from the get-go is like, we're going to do VOD review, we're going to grind, we're going to really pay attention to all this stuff. And all four of them seem to be on the same page with that. So I think that's really important for the team as well, and something that all of them brought up individually.
Have you played much of the game? Austin, have you played?
I haven't. No, I haven't
played
been able to do anything with it.
Man, analysts get shafted too. I can't believe this.
Well, they got the important people. Like
I
I
heard captains. We heard from a source that captains were the ones that got the access on each team, and I guess like the weird for me, like just like to put a cap on how crazy free agency is. It's like we hear about 4v4. We hear about Clayster being the first one on a championship team, but then a few days later, I guess to fulfill a sponsorship obligation, he's at the NV offices with Krim and Rambo Ray playing Black Ops Cold War. Like, it's like such a crazy scenario, right?
Yeah, I mean, Preston was playing for us. He was the one that was playing the Cold War
oh, really?
like, reveal. Yeah.
And at that point, he knew that he was... Did he know that he was leaving at that point? Or had it been announced?
It definitely wasn't announced. Because we just did that. Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I think the conversations... Crazy. I mean, the conversations that were happening behind closed doors were... I mean, no one was left out in the dark. And, I mean, everyone kind of knew what the situation was kind of going to be like. And everyone... I don't know. The talks went super smooth. So I guess he probably knew at that point. And then was like forming a team with Minnesota or any other options he had. So, but yeah, he was the guy that we had playing Cold War.
Wow. So Emily, Chicago. Let's go on to Arcitys' former team. No longer do we have the Twins there, but we do have Dashy with a little bit of a reunion. So it's going to be Formal and Scump and Dashy and Envoy. That sounds like a pretty dangerous squad to me.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like, and again, I hate to bring up like the narrative around this team, but since they've brought it up themselves, I guess I can feel a little bit more comfortable on it, since I forget what, I think it was on his own podcast, Hex brought this up, about talking to Dashy about like taking things more seriously. I feel like that is always that, like, it was the narrative. I mean, you heard Alec talking about this too. Like, that was the narrative around the team previously at the beginning of this year, was like, how seriously is this team going to take stuff like prep and VOD review and preparing and all this other stuff. So I feel like on paper, this is obviously like a really good roster. And like if they're all like bought in and if they're on a game that they like as opposed to Modern Warfare, I think you're going to see a lot different of a level of interest and preparation and stuff like that. So again, I hate to lean into that narrative, but I feel like that is the main discussion around this team, because we know that this team can be sick, right? Like they're not changing a ton, and they were already came in third in champs. So it's not like we don't know what this team is capable of. It's not like we don't know how talented these players are. That's kind of my take, is like if they take it seriously, they're going to be a really formidable team.
I think the flex position is pretty key for this team. I think Dashy, you know, he says this is a natural position for him, but I don't know. I mean, obviously the inner workings of OJLA weren't good this year, but I mean, as a flex player, it was rough on some maps, and you know, he showed a lot of flashes on some maps too. I remember there was like a Gunrunner Dom where he played like really well, but then most of the time that flex position wasn't working out too well. But I think that really it hinges on him having a good year, because I mean, you know what you get out of Scump, you know what you get out of Formal. They're gonna be really like solid players, and you know Envoy's this, you know, superstar SNG like, or S&D like mastermind. But I think, you know, Formal's gonna be the key player throughout the year, or Dashy, sorry, on the flex position, like how he matches up against other teams and if he can win those battles.
Interesting comment here from Thomas, not the Tank Engine, who's I feel like Thomas has been watching this show all season. So thanks for being here in the chat. I love Huntsman, but this team is going to fall off late in the year. Seth and Matt and Bruce all don't take practice seriously enough. They'll fry early, but they're not winning champs, which is an interesting comment because Arcitys just said that they literally started watching VODs late into the season. So that would imply that they would be taking it more seriously at that point.
Well, a lot of teams didn't even watch VOD. Like,
is that a standard thing across the league, like just not to watch VOD early in the season and just pick it up
it shouldn't be.
For playoffs?
I mean, we watch VOD every day.
Yeah.
We got on and did it for at least an hour.
Is that a veteran thing? Is that just a, we don't need to do this because we're fine for now kind of thing? Or like, what do you think that is attributed to?
I think it's just some people prefer learning through talking and just playing, getting reps in. And I think some people don't value VOD watching, or they think that it might put too many things going through their head, like they're thinking too much, like in the game. So I see that side of it, but I still think you should be going over mistakes and like talking to your teammates to make sure you're on the same page in certain situations. Because a lot of people didn't think we had the best fundamentals last year, but I mean, at least we were building our fundamentals the way we were playing the game. And, we were talking through each of our errors every day and like trying to get better. And, that it helps bonding wise too, because you're with your teammates, like working together towards a common goal, even outside of the game. So it's just another activity that helped build the team. So I don't see how it would hurt, but not a lot of teams did that from what I heard. So that does, I mean, even Chicago just doing it is actually showing that they took a lot of actual interest in doing it. So props to them, because not a lot of teams did it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the main two teams that I heard were you and Rocker, in terms of like actual infrastructure. And I think this is one of those weird things that is a product of franchising, I guess. When other people get involved, it can either be like when people outside of the COD community or people in esports who are like higher ups get involved. It can either be like a really good thing or a really bad thing. And one of the byproducts, I think, of franchising is that there were some teams who were like, yes, we're actually going to go through and we're going to set up an infrastructure. And the expectation is that we're going to do VOD review every day, which hadn't really happened previously. So that's actually like a completely new thing. And I remember watching League of Legends go through this like years and years and years ago. So it's funny to see COD going through it now.
Let's move on to Los Angeles. We got we have an update from every single team. Every single team is going through something right now. But as it pertains to Optic Gaming LA, we had a retirement. So JCap retired. Hollow, Chino, and Dashi left. Draza, Quavo, and Slasher's contracts were extended. TJ Haley is sort of there. I think we probably will get an official announcement at some point. But that's your four. Let's just operate under the assumption that this is the four. So Quavo, Slasher, TJ, and Draza. Emily, what do you make of this lineup?
I mean, I feel like so again, I'm just like reminding myself of roster rumors. How much are we like allowed to talk about that? I think they're probably going to have someone else outside of Draza, but then have him still be like almost a substitute. Like I'm looking at the rumored roster, which is John Apathy, Kenny Slasher with Draza as a sub. I don't know how true this is. Honestly, just looking at COD competitive roster rumors. That's an interesting team. I mean, I made no small, like I was very high on Draza when he came in. I wasn't high on him in terms of like when he was announced, but after I saw him play, I was like, oh, this kid is incredibly talented, and I hope he sticks around. Whether Optic decides to keep him or not, I hope he can find a team. So I was happy that he was going to stay on the team. But yeah, I think I don't even know what to say about Optic LA over the past year, honestly. I do think that Draza is like an up and coming talent though, so I'm excited to see him play more. I'm not really sure what to say about the rest of LA because they obviously had like a really weird year internally, I think.
Yeah, they certainly did.
I think they'll be good though.
Do you think they'll be? Do you think they'll be top tier? Do you think they'll be top 5?
Any team that has Slasher and a 4v4. I mean, I said that this year too, though. But I think Slasher is one of the best 4v4 players ever. So I think he's gonna take the reins, and I think he has something to prove after this last year.
Mm-hmm.
And last time we saw Kenny was in a 4v4 setting. He was he the MVP? I think he was the console player of the year for World War II. I mean, he was disgusting on the PPSH, and I don't know who the other two are going to be, but that's that's a really strong duo. I don't know if TJ is going to be back because I know his contract wasn't extended, but that doesn't really mean anything because a lot of the teams are renegotiating with older players that were on the roster before. But I think if Draws is starting, he's a really good entry fragger, and it's someone like Freakazoid from CS where like if Austin just is barking orders and then Draza can just follow them and do whatever he says, that's a strong asset to be on the team. And I thought he showed a lot of like gun skill, and he got better as the year went along. And the Optic team got leaps and bounds better after they picked up Hollow and Draza. So it shows that these two kids have lots of potential. So yeah, I'm really interested to see who they fill out the roster with.
So those are the major recent signings. Why don't we talk about some players that have left teams and are now free agents? Let's start with the London Royal Ravens and the other set of twins in the CDL. I actually thought at one point before Arcitys made his announcement, I don't even know if it would necessarily work position-wise, but like just imagine a team of 2 twins as your starting 4. Kind of would have been cool, but obviously that's not going to happen. Scraps and Wuskin are out of the London Royal Ravens, along with many other players from the London squad. They did retain Shawnee. We're still waiting on a full announcement as it pertains to London, officially.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the twins? What about Scraps and Wuskin? What do you think their chances are in 2021, Austin, of landing a main roster spot?
I think Scraps should be on a team, like 100%. I think Maddie's like really good. I think he's pretty flexible. He's like a very good slayer. He plays his role really well when he's on a set team that has like the fundamentals around him. Wuskin, the sad reality is that the main AR position is so competitive and it's so stacked that you could even be a great main AR, and if you can't flex, which I don't know if he can or can't. I've only seen him play Black Ops 4 when he was on the ICR, and then I saw him when I think he played the Maddox a little bit once Dens joined, I believe. But I don't know if he can flex, but if you can't, that automatically like severely hurts your chances of getting in a lineup if you're not one of the top 12 main ARs. And a lot of teams, like I don't know if Paris is going with a French roster, so that automatically like eliminates like a team, like a potential team, and then you have like Chicago, Dallas, and Atlanta already gone. So all his options are kind of falling, and Minnesota has Lamar, who's like severely underrated too. So the sad reality is he might not be on a team, which would suck. But I think he should keep his head high, and like because he's a really good player, and he's really good at content creation. So at some point this year, a team's gonna be underperforming, and he'll be the next one that a team should be knocking towards. But we'll see. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked out of some of the stuff I've heard, but like come out on like Twitter and stuff. But we'll see. I hope at least one of them lands on a team because they're like content gold for the league.
Mm.
Yeah, I was really surprised. So I'm also not going to really talk about Twitter rumors or anything, but I was really surprised when they were released, only because it does seem like I'm going to make the assumption that whatever team that the London Royal Ravens do land on is going to be like heavily European focused, if not even more focused on like actual like British talent. Only because that seems to be like part of their marketing just generally. And retaining Shawnee also still kind of backs that up. That was more of the big surprise for me, is that they obviously both played really well, and they are, as to Austin's point, content machines. And that was like the more surprising thing to me in all of this, but who knows? I too think that Scraps will probably have an easier time finding a team than Weskin, unfortunately. But yeah, a lot of it, I mean, Austin kind of said this already, like a lot of it is going to come down to role. The thing for me is looking at Ravens now and being like, okay, who are you going to pick up? And I still think that they're probably going to keep focusing on using European / British specific talent, since that seems to be like how they want to go. And like talking to Odie in their press conference before championship weekend, he said that one of the things that they've really been the most sad about is the fact that they couldn't have these events in London, and being a London specific team is something that's like really tied to their identity and something that they want to be tied to their identity, because the fans there are so passionate and will completely support a team like that. So that's something I want to bring up just when talking about London generally, and why it kind of surprised me that that Scraps and Weskin were let go.
And actually, to echo those sentiments, one thing that the London team in particular are looking forward to, I'm sure Paris as well, is expanding the European division so you can get those rivalries established, particularly in Europe on that continent. And that's something very important to London. At least I can speak on London's behalf because we've heard them in press conferences, like you said, with Odie and other members of the staff there in London. They care about that greatly. And obviously we reported that the league will not expand this year, so it will remain at 12 teams. And one of the leading causes of that is certainly the pandemic. But when expansion is thought of, certainly Europe will be one of the first places that is looked at. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if those European teams were helping try to find suitors to bring more teams to Europe, because that would be a completely amazing region where the fans would pop off at pretty much every home series. Like London fan, like fans in England are amazing, period. Like for any event, they're so good.
I mean, Great Britain is such a, like, it's a COD community, you know? Like when you think of like COD, you pretty much think of the US and then Great Britain. Honestly.
Except the casters, 95% of the casters on the CDL are from England. It feels like, anyway. Rightfully so, I'm not taking anything away from them.
We definitely need like a Spanish and like an Irish team, and like
yeah,
I would love, like, I know like there's no like COD background, but like, even like a Swedish team, like Stockholm or something. I would love that, just to expand like the European.
Are you picking which cities you'd like to visit? Is that what you're like? I'd love to go to Copenhagen. You know what? We need a Danish team.
They'd be in like they'd be your tournaments, because Atlanta's on the east coast of the US, so you'd probably have to travel for this.
Like, I think we need a Barcelona Madrid team. Like, there's a lot of talent in the Spanish scene, and like that would be a wonderful addition. And then like, I think it's kind of like a disservice we only have one English team. Like, that definitely needs to expand. Whether it's like Manchester, there's a bunch of really cool
can you imagine?
It would be awesome.
That is a great thought.
When you guys were talking about moving to another European city, I was just like, so pick another city in Great Britain to put it there, just because I feel like they have the community and the fans to support it.
All right, let's keep going. Obviously, elephant in the room, the first free agent, restricted, quote unquote, is Clayster. And I actually DM'd him this afternoon, and I asked, hey, you said in our interview that an announcement would be coming at any point in time, to be ready, like almost typing at the keyboard, ready for, James Clayster Eubanks has signed with blank, waiting to fill that name in for the news release. What do you got for me? And he replied, soon. So that's where we're at. We're still waiting on the big announcement.
Soon TM.
Emily, we do have obviously some Twitter rumors on this, on where Clay could end up. But when you look at the landscape of how things have shaken down so far, where do you think a great place for Clay to land would be?
I mean, where was he? I'm trying to think of. He was rumored to go to New York.
To New York, yeah.
I mean, the big thing with Clay is that he's such a good player to stick with. Like the thing I really loved about Dallas this year that I feel like I've reiterated this on literally every show we've had, but I'll go again. I loved their roster construction. I loved how they leveraged the two veterans in Clay and Krim to kind of bring up either flat out rookies or just younger talent that had already proven that they were really good, but maybe just needed a bit more direction. And this team, this Dallas team, is a team that I'm really sad has to be dismantled due to 4v4 versus 5v5. It's just kind of a poop situation all around. But I loved how they did leverage that kind of balance. And I think Clay, to the E United point that we kind of hinted at in the beginning with a small reunion with all of the younger United players, is that that having someone like Clay on a team to give that voice and give that direction is absolutely huge. So when you talk about like what team could benefit from Clay, well, there's like a lot, right? Like there's just a lot of teams that could benefit from a player like Clay. And I feel like he probably has no shortage of options. So it just is depending on, negotiations and what he wants for himself and what he wants to do. Because I also think that he actually does seem to kind of relish that role himself as well, as a player. Like he kind of takes pride in being that kind of leader on a team. So I expect him to go to a place where he feels like he can continue to lean into that.
I think you're on mute, EasyMac. Or maybe we can't hear you now.
Oops.
There
Yeah,
we go.
did you mute?
Welcome back.
I hope he finds a nice young team that like has a good mix of like young players and veterans again. So I think that's where he thrives, is like motivating his team to keep building and building and building, but like teaching that, like 1 to 2 players how to expand like their skill set and find success. So I think wherever he does land, he has all the options in the world, and he's going to be able to pick wherever he wants to go, and he's going to find himself in a really good situation. So I'm really excited to see where he goes next.
So as we mentioned, there's a couple teams who only have one player officially right now. The London Royal Ravens have Shawnee, and that's it for now. And then you go to Seattle, and you see LeBroctane all by himself, just sitting there waiting for a team to build around him. He led a lot of categories in your very public statistics, EasyMac, this season. And a lot of people are making the joke that the team looks the same at the moment. But whether you believe that or not, what do you think? I mean, Octane, obviously one of the best out there, waiting to see who will shake down here. But you gotta hope, right? I know that you work for another team, EasyMac, but like fans gotta hope that he gets substantial support next season, right?
You don't want to ever see a player like you don't want to wish them bad, because I hope Octane has a good team. And like it kind of scared me when I saw like a tweet, I think it was last week, where he was like, "Oh no, it's happening again." I was just like, "Oh, good lord." Because like what kind of sucks is you have all these teams that already have so much talent locked down. Like obviously our 4 players are locked down, and that's like 4 of the top 10 players in the entire game. And then you go to Dallas, and all of them are locked down. That's another like 4 of the best players in the game. And then Chicago all locked down. And then you go to like OGLA, and like Slasher and Kenny are already locked down. So it's like your options get so limited right off the bat, and it's so hard to pick up like talent that complements him, because a lot of it's already locked down. So, hopefully I saw a tweet I think it was yesterday that, good news. It was like the best day of roster mania ever for him. So that's awesome to hear. So hopefully they do have a really good team around him that can, perform better than what happened this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the best thing that we can hope for is that he has a voice, right? Because it sounded like, and again, this is like not a slight against any of the players or Octane, like it's slight against none of these players. But from what it sounded like, the way that Seattle constructed this roster was literally, these players are all good. We will put them on the same team. They will magically be good together, and it'll be great, right? And that did not happen, obviously. Even before Karma retired, even before Enable was benched, like that just didn't happen, right? And that doesn't always happen when you put together rosters on paper and you get them together and you're like, wait a minute, this is not going to work, and who's playing what and what is this person's role, and we have a bunch of really loud voices that are clashing. And obviously, again, this is not insight onto what happened on Seattle, but Seattle is kind of the perfect example of how sometimes rosters that look really good on paper do not end up working out in execution. So my hope is that if you keep a player like Octane and you're like, this is our guy, right? You then give that guy as much say as possible in who he wants to play with. So that is my main hope. And hopefully the tweet from yesterday pans out and he does have a really strong say and he does get to play with players that he's either already comfortable with or he knows that, yeah, we are going to work well together and these are going to be our roles and this is how we think we're going to play. Because that's actually just like so important.
I just hope like more teams give themselves more cap space to work with, because what hurt Seattle like so much last year is like, obviously fans don't know this and like it's really hard to tell, but like Seattle had no cap space. And there's a competitive tax, so if you go over the salary cap, like it gets real expensive. And they were put into a really tough spot because not a lot of teams had like really strong substitutes, and then like there was teams that had like no cap space. So I hope, that's what's tough about Call of Duty too, is like you build the rosters before the game even comes out. So like who knows how it's going to break down next year? And I just hope Seattle also like gets a really good roster, but also doesn't find themselves in the same spot last year where like one player that was like a sure shot, like I thought Ian and Damon were going to be really good on that roster and it didn't work out. I just hope they have somebody as that fifth player that's ready to step in. I hope all the teams have that too.
So let's just give our final thoughts on available things out there before we get to some rapid fire questions here. Can I just make one comment? And this is so appropriate given how we covered teams throughout the entire season. And Emily knows exactly when I mention this. She's going to understand this completely. I'm looking at the list of active teams on CODpedia, okay? And there's one team that is not listed here. And that's the team that we rarely, like we've spent the least amount of time talking about.
Oh, no.
Now, I'm certain it's because they don't have any players active on their roster at the moment, but it's just so appropriate in my head. It's like, how apropos is it that they're not listed in active teams, as if it's like a indirect shade to the Paris Legion. Man,
they were the team
chat.
We talked about the least, yes.
And they have the least amount of players too. It's just crazy.
They have zero.
Made me laugh. Yeah, exactly. So all I'll say about that is I hope that they are able to build a roster. Going back to your point, EasyMac, about how the amount of, even though there are 20% less starting positions this year, the amount of superstar quality players is quickly dwindling, with many behind the scenes presumably already snapped up. So I hope that Paris already has things in the works and they're announcing something exciting soon that we can really sink our teeth into.
It's all about like how they want to build that roster too. Because like, do they want to go young guys? Do they want to go French? Do they want to just go European? How are they going to make that roster? There's so many questions. And like one of the rumors, I don't know how much we can talk about that, but like one of the rumors was like Hydra. That was a obvious fit there in Paris. And then you start hearing rumors that like Clay talks about him. And then all of a sudden there's all these rumors that other teams are looking at him. And the entire time I was sitting there thinking like, academy teams, this is why we need them. Because like you could have locked up Hydra last year and just moved him right up to like the main roster and he would have been perfect. And it's like, I hope, there's a lot of good French players. Like I hope like him and Brazzy and Whalers and, even some of like there's so many good European talent. I hope like so many players get a nice opportunity to at least get looked at by this Paris team.
Any other additional things to add regarding teams specifically before we get to some rapid fire questions? Emily, any thoughts?
Well, the Ultra have what, 3 or 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're 4.
Kleenex,
I think
Cammy.
They right now.
They
Cammy bans Kleenex and Methods.
Yeah,
And
because
Chef
they're
Tony.
I
Yeah.
think one of their CEOs or one of the investors confirmed their roster.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say, I just wanted to mention that they were also another roster that we didn't really talk about that's set. And I feel like it really seems like they went into the season and they were like, we're going to have a 10-man roster, and then that didn't work out, and they found the roster that worked best for them, and that roster obviously improved, and now they decided how to trim that for Cold War. So I'm curious to see how they perform as well as 4.
Austin, what about for you?
I think they should be good. That's another team where, the flex players can be important. I think Cammy, I believe Cammy's going to be the flex, right? That would make the most sense. Vance
Yeah.
would be a sub. I personally think like Classic could have been, I wish they kept him as a 5th player, because I think he would have been a really good S&G to have on this team to like be that selfless, guy that's sliding in first. But, this is the 4 players that they were really comfortable with. And, I think Cammy, Methods is going to do his thing like he always does in 4v4. He's going to be another top AR. But I want to see how Cammy evolves because, I thought this was his breakout year last year, and I'm excited to see where he goes next year.
All right, rapid fire questions here. Most exciting roster move so far, our personal opinions. Emily, starting with you.
All right, so I'm not saying this because Austin and Arcitys on the show, but I actually think that Arcitys to FaZe is the most interesting to me. I still have, like, E United 2019 is kind of the first, like, really, like, I covered COD for 2019, and then I just followed it super casually as a fan and someone who plays COD every year. And so that was kind of like, that Champs was like the first really big COD event that I worked, and I have a lot of like really good memories of that event. Just generally, it's going to be cool to see Arcitys reunite with some of his former United teammates, and I'm also really curious to see how this roster ended up playing out. To his point, who the IGL is going to be, if it's going to be him and stepping up, and also to his point in the interview, what it's going to be like with him definitively as main AR. I think this team can actually be insane, and they're still going to be incredibly fast, just generally. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And I promise I'm not just saying that because this has been a very FaZe-heavy show.
Actually, Thomas in the chat, Austin said, is it too early to say that the FaZe 1 roster mania, they look amazing on paper?
I mean, the same thing got said last year about so many teams. Like, remember how excited everyone was about OGLA in Seattle? And,
Yes.
stuff can just not go
we
right.
do.
Like, stuff can just not go right once the game starts going on. So it's going to be super competitive. And who knows? I mean, I'm praying we can win. I want to win everything this year. It sucked coming in second 7 times or 6 times, I think.
Yeah, we don't have to relive those old wounds, EasyMac. We can move forward to the future. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Not Atlanta FaZe. Don't pick Arcitys. Be different. Pick another roster move that you think is interesting around the league.
So I'm going to go like something kind of off the track. Like, I thought it was really cool that LIG extended Vivid. Like, I thought Vivid like came out and like proved himself as a really good, entry SMG. And I liked that they kept him and like extended him. And then also another extension that I really liked was out of New York because, I want to kind of go off the beaten path here. Zuma and Mac got extended, and I think that's really smart because those are like 2 key roles locked down, and then you just got to build out, the back line, like the AR and flex. And I think it's going to be really easy for them to find talent that wants to work with 2 like star SMGs like that. So those 2 extensions I thought were really like, like got your mind thinking like where they're going with it, and I really like it. So those are the 2 that stuck out to me a little bit off of the main, Dashy and Arcitys and all of Dallas.
For me, I mean, I'm going to go a little bit of the opposite way here. I like it when a championship team sticks together, and I know that they had to make a change, obviously, because of 5v5, 4v4, and Clay's not going to be on the bench. So I do like the fact that Dallas kept the team the way that it is, aside from one change. I like that, just from a continuity perspective. I love it when the same team is defending their championship. So from that perspective, I like the Dallas moves. I also like that Seattle cleaned house and kept Octane. So now we can have a different team around Octane, and I'm interested to see what that's going to be. So those 2 are of the ones left that we haven't spoken about. I think those are very interesting to me because they can lead to really juicy storylines that we can follow throughout the year. So that's going to be a lot of fun. What about the most disappointing roster move? Austin, I think you have a personal connection to the FaZe changes, obviously, as you mentioned at the top of the program. But what would you say, even if you want to expand on that or you want to pick another one, how would you answer that question?
I'll just touch on ours. Like, it really sucked because those two were like two of the most vocal guys and like really wanted to win. And like a lot of people thought that, those two were like the easy ones to get out. And, I really disagree with that. They brought so much to the team. And, Mike, like a lot of people are already doubting that Minnesota team, which is like really sad to see, honestly, because they don't understand like how versatile Mike and Preston are. And it's like crazy that, this is like the situation we were put into, but like those guys are literally like Swiss Army knives. And I don't know, that one, it's disappointing, but as I said, it's like bittersweet. So that one kind of sucks, I guess. I'll go with that one. That's probably the one that sticks out to me the most.
As soon as you play them the first time, though, they're dead to you. You're going to be like, you know what? They were always terrible. I hated them all. I hated them all along. Just to further the narrative.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Emily, what about for you? Most disappointing roster move so far?
This is probably really cliche to say, but because it's not like, again, it's not a roster move that was brought about by any sort of like internal strife. It was literally just we have to pare down from 5 to 4. But I'm really sad to see that the Dallas Empire team didn't because from everything it sounds like they were just planning on staying together. This was a roster that everyone really liked. Everyone was super happy with it. They saw like their own improvement over the course of the year and were really reflective and introspective about it even before they won champs. And I mean like it's good that they're keeping 4 of the 5 obviously, but the fact that they had to cut Clayster and it was announced less than 24 hours after they won champs is just like like that's just like a really shitty situation, and it's unfortunate. I also think that just looking at like people who are free, kind of, again, probably underrated. I hate using that word, but like a player that I'd really like to see home that I think performed pretty well over this year and maybe didn't get as much credit because everyone on his team kind of around him was popping off a bit, especially when they brought in Pharaoh and Awakening. But I think Frosty is really good, and I want to see him find a good team because I think he did a lot for Florida that kind of went unnoticed. So that's not like a disappointing roster move. Again, it's because I think they had to cut someone, but like I want to see where he ends up.
That's one of those players that like everyone just looks at KD and like says like even like I hated it when this happened, but like as soon as Clay got cut, everyone's like, why would you release the player with your highest KD? Like that is just mind-boggling to me. And it's like then when like Frosty gets released, they're like, oh yeah, lowest KD on the team, get him out of here. Like that's the easy move to make.
Yeah,
like
no.
now everyone else is gonna be frying. And it's like people don't understand that like KD does not mean everything. There's way more to look at, like engagements and even just watching the map and like seeing like the right moves and what he's doing to get the correct spawns and how he's like he's setting up other players to succeed. And it's like he did so much for that team, and it's like it sucks to see him get left off on it, but he should find another successful role. I'm like really positive on that. He's a really good player, really smart. So hopefully he finds a nice home after this little crazy roster mania.
Chat echoes your sentiments, both of you. O'Bonner says, I love Frosty. He's a selfless player. You can't teach that. Thomas agrees. Thomas actually had a great line about Clay. Clay fell off the map IRL after champs.
Oh God, that's so terrible, but true.
And a
throwback,
Yes, very much so. He did. He fell off the map this season too, didn't he? In one game,
yep.
I think it was
on
the champ.
Petro.
Yeah.
I don't know how he even managed to do it. He fell off on Petro.
It just happened somewhere. I don't know how, but he just did. If there is a way to find how to fall off the map, The man for the job is definitely Clay. Let's be real. But I will agree with Emily 100%. That was my pick as well. Like just
Oh, Frosty was? Oh, nice.
Oh no, Clay was my pick. I mean,
Oh.
Frosty is a great point, but Clay was definitely my. I mean, I just like the timing of it is the worst part. It really is.
Yeah.
Like you don't even give them more than a day, less than a day to celebrate they're already thinking about it at the after party. The after party's at Clay's house. They're all going to Clay's apartment to
God.
party. You know, like that stinks. Like they're thinking about it. They're stressed about it. Clay said he knew it was him for a month or so. As soon as he heard it, he knew he had a sinking feeling that he would be the guy. And then you don't give them a day. Now everyone's talking about it. You go into their championship press conference and like we don't even as media, right, Emily? Like you and I, like we don't have time to even ask them how it feels to be champions because there's already this giant piece of news out there that we now have to ask about. And it's like, literally, it's unfair to them because they don't even get a chance to bask in the glory of winning a world championship. Now they have to field questions about, well, who's it going to be? Who's going to be the one? And even Clay said in that press conference, I hope it's me. And I think the source of that was the fact that he knew it was him. And he hadn't even talked about it at that point. And then he finds out on stream. He finds out, he gets a text, and we talked about this in the interview that him and I did that's on our YouTube channel. He looks down at his phone while he's live on stream, and you can see his demeanor just completely change. The blood fell from his face. You could see his eyes just sink, like one of those. You just know where like the happiness just exits your body. And then he just like regroups really fast because he realizes he's on camera. He's all right, let's whatever. And that's when he got the text that he said, like Hastro said, we need to talk, right? Like that's just unfortunate. It's just
roster
unfortunate.
change period should have been handled so much differently, in my opinion. It's just no other sport or esport. You win a championship, and then an hour later, you got to start thinking about what you're gonna do for tomorrow. Or like the roster change period. It's just like way too fast of a turnover. I mean, even Hastro said like they won, they popped a bottle of champagne, and then he started talking to all the players about what they need to do. And
that is the worst celebration ever for winning a world championship. All right, guys, congratulations. One of you will not be here in a week. Like that sucks. All right.
It's horrible.
I'm laughing, but it's because I don't know what else to do.
It's also so tough because all the players already knew that like something was happening. And like whenever you have like, I also don't like that every contract's a 1-and-1. So like right away, like you have to tell the player because like if they don't tell Clay for another week, like, he's in a worse spot. So like you have to tell him, and you have to make these decisions right after the season. It's so rough.
Just to catch in case you're unaware, a 1-and-1 means it's a 1-year contract with the option for the player and or the team to pick up a second year of a contract at a predetermined salary.
And
so
this year,
what a 1-and-1 is.
Yeah, this year it was just a team option. So it wasn't even like a player
just
option.
a team option, yeah.
Yeah,
so
it was
that's
a 1-and-1
even in favor of the team.
Yeah.
Which
is
goes
why
back
you
to
saw
Emily's conversation about
That's why we need a players union.
That is a conversation we could have for hours on stream. Believe me when I tell you, and I'm sure we will at some point. The last thing I'd like to talk about on this show before we wrap up, and EasyMac, you are always generous with your time. We appreciate it, and on future episodes as we're winding down the show, obviously we'll have some coverage through free agency on our website, espn.com/esports. But if and when the show returns at some point in the future, probably before season 2, you are always welcome. Just know that, especially if you want to talk about the Rangers and their chances for next season. Emily is also a hockey fan. We can have just a giant esports hockey podcast. I think that'd be great.
I am not a Rangers fan, though.
No, you are a Bruins
fan,
and I can't wait to pit you two against each other. Call of Duty is switching to PC. How about that? That was interesting news that I don't think many, at least people not in the know, didn't really see that coming. But it is PC. It will be controller, so you will have a list of approved controllers. What did you make of this news, Austin?
Well, it actually got leaked before last season even started. And like everyone thought it was fake, and then sure enough, here it is. But I would have loved if it was just Pro League that got crossplay, because like obviously there's a lot more like restrictions, and you have all the cameras in the background to make sure everyone's playing by the same rules and everyone's on the even playing field. I love that it gives so much more options towards, pause features or tactical pauses. It gives so much features to like the spectating experience, and like there's endless amount of things this brings. And I love that they kept it controller only. Like I think that's really important for the Call of Duty future, to stay kind of in its roots, even though it kind of like there's positives and negatives to it. But I think it was important that they did that. But the challenger scene going crossplay, mega super worries me, because it doesn't, it sounds like it's just gonna go to trash so fast, because Call of Duty doesn't have like this really big anti cheat, and even if they introduce an anti cheat next year, it's still they haven't had years to refine it and add securities and everything that needs to be there when you're competing for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like when you go to CS, like everyone says, VAC is not a great anti-cheat. But like what happens is people on like Faceit and ESEA, they have like these built-in anti-cheats, but that can't happen in COD. So it's like I'm super worried that we're just gonna see a bunch of like cheaters, and like even like the legit AMs that are like top of the scene, like Awakening this year. Like every good AM next year is gonna be accused of cheating somehow, whether it's controller only. Like you can spoof that so it's a keyboard and mouse and it says controller, and like you could use like an aim hack or a wall hack, and there's so much opens up. Like you've seen all like the clips of like streamers forgetting to take their wall hacks off, and it's just big red boxes on Hackney S&B, and it's like, what is going to stop people from doing that? Like, are we just going to ask politely like what happened this year? Like, guys, don't cheat. Is there going to be like this whole, like, I hope it's like an intrusive anti-cheat for the competitive side, something that like no one really wants either. But like I think that's like, if you're going to be competing for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if it's online especially, I like everyone has to be on an even playing field. And it's like I'm so worried that it's just a rabbit hole that I would have liked another year or two down the line to happen for the AM side. But I guess next year it's gonna be interesting to see if it makes or breaks.
Emily,
well, and especially, I was going to say, I think the big thing is that it's, as far as we know, no insider information at all. Like, honestly, I'm actually not memeing. As far as we know, things probably will still be online from everything it looks like, because you can't really do like even if they figure out something where you'd be able to have a LAN environment for pros, that is a lot different than doing it for down. Yeah, you're not going to be able to do that for the amateur scene. Like, you just can't. Like, the whole idea of the COD amateur scene is literally someone like me with no hands can team up with a bunch of people and try to make it, right? Like, and try to go through a tournament. And obviously that's not what it is at like the higher levels, especially as things start sorting out and teams pick up their own like academy or challenger teams or whatever they want to do in terms of infrastructure. But this is still something that the added layer of it is that it's online. And already we've had people in the pro community accused of cheating just because everything's online. And Awakening is the one that everyone kind of points to and is like, this is really bad. And then like he comes out and he's like, no, this is what I did. And he shows it. And then like the next week, there's another one. It's like, he's definitely cheating this time. And so it's like, it goes both ways, right? Because I think you will have more people trying to cheat, but then you'll also have pros unfairly accused of cheating. So like, it's the worst. You will get the worst of both worlds, especially if things continue to be online, which is, to me, the biggest sticking point. In terms of why they want to do it, I totally understand, because it does give the league a lot better tools to have like, I mean, tactical pauses is like a huge thing, but if we're assuming that Treyarch and the game developers are communicating a lot better, and from everything I've heard, I don't know if it's just Modern Warfare PTSD, but from everything I've heard, it's like worlds better already. Like, everyone's just like, this is great. They're actually talking to us. Yeah, et cetera, et cetera. like if already with that increased line of communication, you can improve spectator features, right? Like you can improve so much for the league, and a lot of the kind of technical issues that we had, like actual technical issues, not disagreements on, like how we should handle certain things,
Goes out the
can
window.
be fixed really, really easily if you're doing it via PC. So that is obviously why they want to do it. I totally understand that, and I'm actually totally behind that as well, because as we know from doing the show every week, technical issues infuriated me throughout the season. And again, some of it I think fell on the league side. A lot of it didn't, obviously, because of having to go online during the pandemic. So there's a lot of things to think about here. The biggest thing, though, that when it came out, I was just like, oh no, because everything's online still, as far as we know. And we've already had so many people unfairly accused of cheating. And we've also probably had like a non-zero amount of cheating. Like I think there's been a non-zero amount of cheating in every online event, to be honest. Or at least people have tried. Because I'm a cynical person. So
Especially when there are 50 plus people playing on a same map. Usually there's some people trying to cheat if there's money on the line too.
Yeah, I just wish they came out with more information. Like, I think this year, like, they should have just done cross-plat, like with Xbox and PlayStation and cross-gen, and just pro scene, PC with controllers, and it would have blew up the pro scene because you have all these more options for better visuals, better technical fixes, and then like it doubles the player base for the amateur scene. It doesn't open itself up to cheating. Like this is a lot of exposure that it just threw in for the amateur scene. Like I hate being so like negative about it, but like it's like completely opposite ends. Like pro scene, you're like, yes, this is amazing. Thank God, this is awesome. Let's go. Why didn't we do this last year? And then like the amateur scene, it's like, ah, shit. Oh no. Like I don't see many positives, because what is stopping some like really good aimer and like a really low level like CS or Valorant or something like that spoofing into like their keyboard and mouse into a challenges event and winning a tournament and just cashing out like like the $50,000 tournaments that they had every other week. Like what's stopping them? Because like there's no anti-cheat, or if there is, it's not. I don't think it's gonna be very refined, like very like awesome that can detect all these like super high level cheats. So what is the negative of a player coming in and cheating if they're like a brand new player and like don't want a long-term COD career? I don't know. I don't know how you stop that. I don't know.
There's going to be at least one person that just does it to meme. And I hate to say it like that, but like if you're not even thinking, like you said, of COD as a long-term thing, but you're kind of good enough to maybe compete,
why not?
You're gonna do it just for the notoriety.
And we already have so many issues with like the challenger tournaments where there's all these teams and it's like people getting hitting offline, and it just takes so long for one round in the amateur scene. And like they were playing every weekend. I think they only had like 5 weekends off this entire season, all the way from champs to the beginning of the year. And like I would just be pulling my hair out as an amateur, because now not only is it harder to get into the league, but now you have all this exposure for cheaters, and it's like, like
and just to give you a context, I actually wrote about this about a month ago about how like the cheating actually works. Like, how do the people find these cheats? What are they downloading? What are they actually getting assistance with? The one thing I will say here is that it is way easier to cheat than you think it is.
Oh, way easier.
It's extremely accessible. It should not be that accessible, but it is. It is very, very easy to find how to cheat, and with even a couple bucks. It's not even that expensive.
You just have to Google search it, and you get free cheats.
It's bad.
You don't need to pay money.
Yeah, there's free cheats that, I mean, literally right now, there's no way to catch you. You have to report the player in like a war zone that they get caught.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
I just wish there was more information, because I don't know how you drop that on the AM scene and then just not, like, all these negative thoughts, and I'm just like, I just wish they came out and said, like, we do have solutions that we're looking into, or like, we know this could be an issue, but it was just PC for AMs and good luck.
I know what the solution is, Emily. It's been staring at us all along.
What?
Put put no cheating in the gentleman's agreements. And there you go.
Ah, there you
Thumbs
go. GA cheating.
Asked very nicely.
up. No cheating. Oh, well, I mean, it's in the
Well,
GAs. We
if
can't.
you say,
I
you
mean,
say so.
we can't. We got to honor that.
I just can't
Wow.
believe it. Everyone gets accused of straight packing if you're a good GA. As soon as somebody gets like a wild like wall bang kill, instant like wall hacks. And as
Yep.
soon as like a player gets a cool like 3-piece breaking into a hill, aim hack. Like I don't trust you. Aim hack. And it's just gonna be like you're gonna get, like so many players are gonna have these huge bad reputations, and it's gonna ruin people's career because you're never gonna get into the pro league.
You realize that we're gonna have to kick Simp out of the league now.
Wow.
You realize, right? Like Simp can't play this season. He's gonna get accused every game. New hardpoint
boy.
record. Sorry. You know what?
Envoy, everyone he's
Yeah.
gonna have to have like 4 hand cams now.
Oh god.
We're gonna have like a whole setup, like 10 cameras.
He
Everyone.
still has not shed that.
You'll be able to see his setup from every different angle.
Yeah.
Thomas in the chat says GA Simp. That's it. We've GA'd.
Oh,
Sorry,
man.
Simp's out of the league. He's been GA'd.
And the
If
reason
I
why
was
this isn't a
Envoy,
big deal.
I would do that, though. I would put like 10 cameras. I'd be like, look,
Yeah.
I am not cheating.
Yeah.
The reason why this isn't a big deal for the pro league too is like there are like 4 cameras on these guys to begin with.
True.
Like
Yeah.
there's one that's in your hands, on your PlayStation, on your setup, behind you. They got everything. So like
Let's
that
be
is
honest.
covered.
Celium's not cheating. Okay, he doesn't even move. He stays in the same exact position
I
the
love it.
entire game.
He changed his camera angle just because we were giving him crap because he always looks the same. So it was just the other side of his table for the All-Star event. I was dying.
All right, listen, we're up against it. We got to go. Time is against us right now. EasyMac, what happens now in the next few weeks for you? What are you working on? What happens?
So it really sucks 'cause it's kind of boring, but like I started the other day, I make like a whole new like workspace, like everything for our team. So I just try to make improvements and brainstorm. So it's really boring. I just I pray the game comes another day sooner. So like this alpha release is like the glow of my week because like I try to do as much stuff with my girlfriend and my family and just wait patiently for the next game to come out. But that's pretty much what my next when does the game come out? I think like November 13th. That's
November,
that's a
yeah.
long time away from me. It's gonna be a long 2 months.
It's the time of the year where you're like, especially with Modern Warfare, you're just kind of like, oh, when's the new COD coming out?
Yep.
I want to play.
Well, you can play this weekend in the closed alpha if you have a PS4. It is exclusive to that. You can play for free, except if you're in Germany or Japan. Then you have to pay a nominal fee. But you can give it a try this weekend, just like the pros did, at least the captains of every team. That'll do it for us here on Search and Destroy. If you're a League of Legends fan, we have a special presentation on Friday where we will give you our top 10 plays of world's history as we approach the 2020 League of Legends World Championship, which is happening in a bubble, by the way, in the Shanghai bubble,
So
if you weren't
cool.
aware. Yeah. So I guess we'll wait
Yeah.
and see if Call of Duty will be in a bubble next season, which would be crazy.
It'd
A
be
lot of fun.
insane.
It would be. But that's it. That's all for Search and Destroy. We will be back at some point in the future, but you can always check out our website, espn.com/esports for more coverage, and follow EasyMac on Twitter because he gives us public stats that are always appreciated, and he's the man. It's _EasyMac, correct?
It's _EasyMac. Yep.
There it is.
I think about that for a second.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.